Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'll be doing a little bit of a different video talking about the basics of curation on Hive. I added this cool live ticker that shows my high power. I thought that would be cool to add in the videos. And then, if I'm doing some sort of curation in the future, people will be able to follow along the progression of my high power over time on YouTube. Anyway, so yeah, the ticker is pretty cool. Like it updates live. Like if you notice now when I'm claiming my rewards, it's going to update to the current. Okay, there it goes. That's really cool. Anyway, so let's go into curation. So this platform, this front end peaked. It shows the rewards in their dollar value, but it displays it in Hive rewards basically. So you can't really, it's $3 if you were to vote it on Hive blog. That's the strength of my voting power right now. But here it just shows it as Hive because it doesn't want to, display the fiat value, I assume, which might be a nice thing. But for newcomers, it might be maybe a bit confusing. Maybe they're not going to understand what these points mean. But that's what they've chosen to do at least, and we have plenty of other platforms, so it's not really an issue. Alright, so what I wanted to go through is, as you can see here, my current voting power is 65%. And it tells you that it's fully charged in 2 days, which means that it's going to charge 20% in 24 hours basically. That's how the rules of the blockchain are right now. And this 20% also equals to 10 full votes. But that's kind of a lie, because you can't like to spend 20% in 10 votes, you would have to wait for your voting mana to go back to 100% every time, and then time it in such that you would cast your vote just then. And let me explain why that is. So as you can tell, my voting power right now is 65%. So I'm not able to give this post like the max of what my stake could give. I would have to wait for my voting mana to go to 100% to do so. And this also means that when you give a full vote, and if you were at 100%, your full vote would burn 2% voting mana. So that's what I mean with 10 votes would equal to 20%, because one full vote at 100% voting mana burns 2% of your voting mana basically. But since I'm not at 100% now, this means that my full vote currently is not worth 100%, even though I'm voting at 100% of my current voting mana. And in return, this also means that it's not going to burn a full 2% mana. Instead, it's going to burn 65% of 2%, if that makes sense. Like if I was at 50% voting mana instead of 65, it would only burn 1% voting mana instead of 2. So you'll be able to tell now that when I vote this, it turned into 63.77 and not, minus 2%. So this is why people, when they say that voting power is very flexible, like you can't really go wrong if you vote too much one day and your voting mana goes down to 40 or 30%, you don't really lose out on it. There's very few occasions when you can lose out on it, and I want to get into that soon. But I think that's a bit more advanced. Okay, so what else is there to know about voting mana? If you were to power up Hive, this is a bit too little now to make a difference, but you would gain some voting mana from that, I believe. And when you were to power down, you would lose some voting mana, but it's like, a very small fraction, considering you can only unstake 1/13 of your stake per week, so it's not like gonna make a big difference. But also when you receive delegations or somebody removes a delegation from your account, your voting mana is going to be affected. And this is mostly to prevent some kind of double spend voting, and also why it takes 5 days for your delegation to come back to you, because it takes 5 days for your voting mana to go from 0 to 100% if you somehow manage to get it to 0%. So that's just with the double vote thing in mind. Like people don't want, the blockchain doesn't want you to use the same voting power twice, which in turn would mean that you would get more curation returns than other people on the platform. So everything is quite, calculated and well thought out there in that place. And okay, so let's go into what you can do wrong as a newcomer when it comes to using your voting mana. And also a reason why we launched the comment rewarder program. If you have heard of it, it's second. So the comment rewarder program is quite simple in a way. It liquidates rewards. It liquidates rewards that have been sent to it through beneficiaries, and those rewards are then tipped over to the comment section of your post based on how you have voted the comments. So why did we create this? Alright, so let's say you have a very small stake, and the thing with the blockchain to prevent spam and bloat is that it has like a dust threshold, where if you go into a comment section and if you were to vote this, okay, so you can see that my 1% is above the 0.02 threshold, but for most people the 0.02 threshold is probably going to be at like 50% or 90%, and for some of them it's, they're going to need like 200-300%. They basically don't have enough stake to get there. This threshold also fluctuates based on the price of Hive, so it's not always the same, but if you grow enough with your stake, eventually it's not going to be a problem for you. But the thing is that, let's say you're an author now who has, let's say, 5,000 high power, and you're using it well, you're curating other people, you enjoy consuming the content, you're building connections, and these people start appearing on your blog post, and let's say you receive 7 comments one day, and you want to vote all of them up like Peaked has been doing here. And for Peaked, this was like 3% per comment, it's 15%. That's like 15% of a full vote. It doesn't burn that much voting power of their daily stake. So for them it's not a problem. All of these comments have gone past the dust threshold, and they can still use so much voting power on curating posts and not having an issue. But you as an author, if you want to reward all of these comments, you're going to have to burn so much voting mana just to get them past the dust threshold. And if you do so, then you're not going to have a lot of voting power left to curate and try and build some connections with other people by leaving a vote on their post and maybe a comment, because you have like burned out your voting mana trying to reward your comment section. That's like the big issue for smaller users. And another big issue is that a lot of people aren't even aware of the dust threshold. Many even bigger users would just cast like a 5% vote, not noticing that it's under the dust threshold, which means that not the comment isn't going to get any author rewards, nor are you going to get any curation rewards from the vote you just cast. So it's basically, you just wasted like voting mana for no reason, and you know, like placed a activity on the blockchain for no reason as well. So it's like a lose-lose for both parties involved, just because they weren't aware of the dust threshold, or you know, like it's a bad bad user experience basically. So it's both to prevent people from losing voting mana, voting power for no reason, and those who want to not spend it all in the comment section but use it on posts instead. Another thing to note is that the dust threshold for author rewards is a lot higher than the dust threshold for curation rewards. If you have a very small stake and you go and vote on a post, and it tells you that your vote is worth at least 0.002, so that's like 2 zeros and a 2 at the end. If it tells you that, and since it's split up 50-50, you're going to receive at least a 0.001 high power curation reward back. But this only works if the post is past the dust threshold already, or if you think it's going to get past the threshold at some point before payout. So your small stake can still earn curation rewards up to 0.01 per day on your 10 votes, but if you were to try and vote up comments or posts that are not going to get past the threshold, then you're just not going to get that small curation reward at all, which means that it kind of hinders your growth. And obviously everyone wants to grow, since everyone can grow up at a 8.5% APR, but of course at the smaller scales, if you're just struggling to get 0.001, it's not going to be exactly 8.5. It's more like, there's not enough decimals there to make it as exact at the 8.5% level. Anyway, so that's kind of like, so as a newcomer, what I would recommend you to do is to mostly just vote for posts that you see are past the threshold already. Like this is, you can see, okay, this is going to pay out, so I will place even my tiniest amount, my 0.002 vote there, and I know it's going to pay out and give me some curation rewards. And if your account is that small that doesn't even give out a 0.002 upvote, then your votes are basically just symbolic. You can maybe look to lease some delegation, or ask someone if they want to give you a small delegation of high power. But the thing is that you shouldn't be wasting it on comments, because it's not going to do anything. And that's kind of what the comment rewarder project changes. Because here, if you know that you're receiving author rewards, like let's say you're receiving $5 in author rewards, and you've gotten used to it, but your high power is still not able to give you, give people a decent vote, then you can do this thing where you send, let's say 5 to 10% to comment rewarder, and when you then receive comments, you can only give like a very symbolic small 1 to 2 to 3 or up to 5% vote on the comments. So in terms of your voting power, this burns like very, very little voting power of you. But the comment rewarder program will know that the comment that you voted 5% should receive a bigger vote, or a bigger share of the your post rewards sent to comment rewarder as tips, compared to the comment you only voted maybe 3% or 2% or 1%. So you could also just vote the comments either 1% or 2%, or all of them just 1% if you want to split it up evenly. The point is that it doesn't burn a lot of your voting mana. You can then go and use your voting mana on posts and receive curation rewards back. So it both saves your curation rewards that you should receive some, even though they're small, and it saves you from having to waste a lot of voting mana on the comments, and most of the time still not get past the threshold, or like struggle to get past it and spend all your voting mana there instead of using it on posts or somewhere else. So that's kind of the idea, and I feel like a lot of people have struggled with understanding it in the past. So I thought, a quick basics on Hive curation and or voting basically, and a little touch on the comment rewarder side of things at the same time for the more advanced voters who may still be doing some mistakes and aren't aware of things. So let me know how, what you thought of this. Did you learn anything new? And there's probably some things I missed about voting. I'm kind of active here for a very long time now, so a lot of things I may not be thinking of right now. So let me know if there's any questions you have, and I'll try and answer them in the comments, or if there's too many, then I'll maybe just make another video. Alright, let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.